Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Board Game Geek Show for May 10th, 2018. I am your host, Scott Alden, Aldi on Twitter. I am once again joined by my lovely co-hosts, Eric, Martin, and Lincoln Demers. Hey, guys, how's it going?
Hey, Scott. Hey, Eric.
That's right, lovely co-host here.
Welcome back from Japan. I hope you had a good trip. Let's kick off this week's episode with some Board Game Geek announcements. First thing, Eric, I know you've launched the preview for Origins 2018. Why don't you talk about that?
Yes, we have a convention preview on the site. We'll get a banner on the front page so you can click to it straight through, or you can find an announcement in the BGG news section. We have more than 100 listings so far in the Origins 2018 preview that has just started. We have another 5 weeks before Origins opens at the point this video is being recorded. And I'll be adding titles to the list for another 4 weeks. This is way more titles than we've had in the past, and I think just publishers are announcing things earlier and trying to get buzz going for what they have at the show. So we'll be adding many more titles in the weeks to come.
Right, we're going to have a booth in the gaming hall. We originally thought we were going to be in the exhibitor hall, but this year we are back in the gaming hall. I think we're probably close to where we were last year, so if you want to stop by and say hello, we'll be there.
That's right. We're recording for 5 days. Actually be live streaming, so you can come and watch publishers and designers be interviewed. And if we have dead air, then we'll put you on camera too, probably.
So you guys are just back from Tokyo Game Market. How'd it go?
So it was my first time at Tokyo Game Market and my first time in Japan, and it was amazing. It's everything you think it is and more. It's really, really crazy. And the fair is unbelievable. I guess the attendees are around 25,000, 30,000 over the 2 days.
No. Actually, yes. Over 2 days, it was 20,000. Estimated 12,000 the first day and 8,000 the second.
Oh, okay. It's pretty orderly, right? The Stampede is nowhere near like Essen's Stampede where people are running in to get those new games. There was one game that Eric had meant to go try to find out what the deal with it was. They had a massive switchback line for this game. Dominaria, was that what it was?
Domina Games is the publisher. The game is called Blade Rondo. It turns out it's a 2-player game by Pawn, the designer of Sheppy and Gorater and some other obscure solitaire games in Japanese. And you each get a hand of 7 cards, and you are fighting each other with those 7 cards, adjusting your attack and defense values and your special value. So it's this incredibly minimalistic fighting card game that had an incredible line of people. And it's funny just because I had seen the title in passing, and aside from that, I knew nothing. And yet everyone clued in was just like, get there.
Well, it was amazing. And they were all very, very calm, organized lines. The Russian, so your ticket at the fair is your the guidebook for the fair. So everybody's holding it over their head, and I'll have some footage of that at the end of the show, coming in to show that they have their ticket. And it was just fantastic. And I did not really get to see nearly enough. The first day we scheduled a 2-hour break before we start filming. And, we had a little bit, because we got there at 9 during setup, and we had a little bit of time to look around, but I had to get back to the booth and start setting up. And then the second day, I was hoping to go purchase a few things, and that did not happen. So
that's right. I kneecapped Lincoln.
Well, you were making sure we were super busy at the end of the day. That was great.
I had scheduled some things. Then I still had another hour, but we had talked to. It was at least 6 or 7 people who said, we'll have to get you on Sunday. And so we went around Sunday morning for an hour, and we essentially filled all the space. And then it was even more than what we thought. And we ran through our break, and we just went from 11 to 5. And that was the show, because they end at 5. So, sorry, Lincoln.
And they tear down fast. Holy cow. It was super, super efficient breakdown. Even the big booths were coming down quickly. The only one that I think that was still kind of going was the Backfire, I think, because Arclight was pretty much, they were lowering that framework down but when we were actually leaving. That was the last bit of the staging that they had to remove. I guess this is the first year. So Eric's like, Oink Games is the only booth that has a Essen-style booth. And we get in there, and Arclight has this big one, and then Backfire has this gigantic rock stage with speakers and stuff. I mean, gigantic in BGG, I mean, board game terms, but it was great.
And Yellow Submarine had a big booth. The retail chain had a giant booth with all these displays and supplies and things that they did not have a year ago when I was there. And another retailer had a giant display. And Der Spiele, which is a retailer, had some exclusives. So they had a big booth set up for the game Privacy out in Japanese, which I guess was exclusive to them, where you have to walk through a curtain in order to play.
Oh yeah, I saw that. And you're like, oh, that's the game. I'm like, oh wow, so it's coming out here too.
Yeah. So retailers will get exclusive sometimes dealing with publishers where they're importing something and then often taping Japanese rules to the back of the game because it's the original German edition or English edition or something like that. That's less common these days. Many, many, many more games are coming out in Japanese, and they were all over the place too, with ArcLight having a relatively large booth. I mean, it was I don't want to say medium-sized Spiel booth. It's not that big, but it was
pretty big.
It was very professional.
Lots of gameplay space. Not that one. That was pretty good size. They had a Games Workshop. They distribute them there, and so they had a guy painting minis and showing Shadespire. It was awesome.
That's true. Yeah, there was a lot of that as well. So they had, the first day it was around 480 exhibitors. The second day, I think it was 430. The larger booths overlapped the 2 days. They each had space there, but all the doujin designers, the independent people with the tiny meter wide booths, a lot of them were just new the second day.
Yeah, I didn't see any of that the second day.
I
barely any of it the first day.
I've seen people posting pictures, and it's kind of depressing, just being like, "Oh, we missed all of that." I talked with Mr. Ono from Table Games in the World. We're gonna have translated reports from him that we'll publish on BGG News, because it's weird. I feel that all the past shows that I've been to here, I write up a report about what I saw, and this time everything that I saw pretty much is going to be on video, so you can see it too. There's not much more.
Yeah, we actually did pretty well. We got over 40 videos, which was shocking, considering... I mean, the first day we did 17, and we were really slammed the next day. The end of the day was insane. It was just stacked up, one right after the other. I was offering people a place to sit down, and there were like 6 people, and I'm like, well, you get to draw straws, who gets to sit down? And I had to give up my chair for them to have 3 chairs. It was pretty funny. The other thing that was great was how quickly the German releases are there. So I saw Ganz schön clever and The Mind and Illusion before I've ever even seen them in US stores.
That's right. A bunch of Cosmos titles, Drop It was out there, with Japanese rules on the back.
Yeah.
It's not out in the US for another couple of months, I think.
But I mean, they're just importing it and putting the Japanese rules on, which is pretty great. That's the old Mayfair style deal there,
I know.
We also interviewed the creator of the event. He's no longer involved in the event. He stopped in 2009, and he's a great guy.
Yes, we've had Jun Kasaba on. It was partially due to our translator, our primary translator, Ken Shoda, who was super helpful. I cannot emphasize how much help Ken gave us, not only translating, which he did for 3 or 4 hours on Sunday, but we would walk around the fair and it's, oh, this is a friend of mine, and this is a friend of mine, it's a friend of mine, and oh, here's the creator of Game Market, and blah, 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 all these facts about him. Oh, here's these other... It was incredible. He just knows lots and lots of people, and I just happened to know him by chance, running into him at BGG.Con in 2012. So it's kind of amazing how these connections play out over time.
Well, it sounds like it's almost like the birth of a new spiel, right? It's that everybody knows everybody, and it's building up from almost nothing. And even in the short time you've been going, Eric, like all the stuff that's changed so much now, it's kind of hard to believe. Yeah.
It's interesting. There's a standard roster of U.S. publishers who show up each time and scout for games. And what was funny is seeing now Asmodee's coming. They were there for at least the second time. They had representatives. Eric Lang showed up from Simon. That was his first time there. And he was already looking around saying he could see this thing just growing giant in the next year or two, because there'd be a feeding frenzy for a couple of games that seemed really sharp and possibly something that could translate well to the European US market. And just every publisher wanted this. We go buy this, we go buy this, we buy this, and now we'll start bidding, I guess.
We actually had an interview with Eric where we got his first impressions of his first Tokyo Game Market. It was a pretty great interview.
Okay, so look forward to the videos that were recorded from Tokyo Game Market on our YouTube channel that you'll see right here, Board Game Geek TV. Let's move on to everybody's favorite topic. What have you been playing? And I will start it off, since you guys just talked for a long time. I will let you rest your voices. I played a game called HEXplore, which is a Kickstarter game. If you can sense a trend in my past episodes, you can see where I've been spending a lot of time. I was really taken with this game. One of my friends who had learned the rules was ambivalent about it, and he didn't love it and he didn't hate it, but I really, when I played it, really loved it. And in a nutshell, this game is all about like crunching D&D statistics, which doesn't sound that fun, but like when you make the combinations that you make in this game, it really is fun. I think there's 20 odd races and 20 odd classes, and you can mix and match these at will. I was playing a undead cleric, which was kind of unique to me. I don't think that's ever been done before in the fantasy genres, but maybe I'm wrong. So it comes with, each race comes with a rule, each class comes with a couple rules. You mix the stats together, you like add them together, so your race adds to your class and you get a number, and you have a bunch of stats, and you're trying to work through sort of an abstract kind of encounter type system, increasing your stats. However, there are mini bosses in the game, and then your ultimate goal is to beat the final boss. And these are driven by kind of random AI, and just something about it really grabbed me. I like the artwork. I liked fudging the numbers. It's all with dry erase marker boards, so you're just erasing your stats as they grow. It's not like you're erasing a paper. Everything about it was really sharp. I believe they just had a Kickstarter for the reprint of the first version plus a second version. I think they're both standalone with expansions. So unfortunately, this is maybe too late to buy it, but you might be able to go pre-order it. So go check out HEXplore.
That is a definite trend. We should guess what Scott's going to play each week. Was it cooperative?
It is a cooperative game.
It's going to be just what was just delivered.
That's right.
That one had been sitting around for a while, and I loaned it to one of my buddies here, and he had played it with one of the other guys, and they sort of broke it. Like, it's sort of got a bit of a rich get richer. Like, once you start getting your power up, you can start fighting bigger and things. And then when you're fighting the boss, it was a little anticlimactic. However, there is a difficulty scale in the game, so you can make it harder for yourself. So when we play it again, we'll probably up the difficulty a bit. I did almost die a couple times, so that was kind of fun. I always like it when there's a good tension in the game.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, it was really fun. I don't think it's for everybody. It's definitely you gotta like fantasy, you gotta like adding numbers up, you gotta like rolling dice.
But that hit all your buttons there, it sounded like.
For some reason, that one did. I'm not saying those will always do that. There's definitely a bunch of games of that type that I don't love. But this one I really enjoyed, and I'm looking forward to playing again, hopefully soon.
That's cool. Well, Eric and I started playing as we got onto the plane. As we took off on our flight from Los Angeles, we played The Mind, of course, 2-player.
And won,
which was pretty amazing. It was great. So 12 levels, which was really, really cool. And then we played a bunch of Diceland, where I think I maybe won once, but I think Eric won just about every other time. And that was a great game. It's Andreas Spies and Reinhard Staupe from NSV, and it's a roll and write kind of an exploration game, because you have to it's just abstract. You're moving around trying to get certain colors and claiming victory points, and then trying to claim all of one color, which is challenging, especially when you're not getting what you need to roll. There was a couple rolls where I was doing pretty well, and then basically could not roll what I needed for that last bit, and Eric was, because there was only one game where I think I was sufficiently ahead of him and it just stalled. It's really cool though.
It was a good game to play while eating yakitori.
Yeah. And a guy smoking the whole time. That was terrible. And coughing sneezing like 30 times. And he knocked over his beer. It was so funny, and we're like, "Wow, this is a mess." So, Scott, if you ever think you sneeze too many times, you don't hold a candle to this guy.
Yeah, I definitely have my times when I sneeze, like in a chain of 20 plus, but 30 is a new level.
It was literally at least 30 times.
It was weird just because we're sitting like, what is wrong with him? And then he knocks over the beer and he's just staring at it like, oh yeah, I got beer on the ground, and the restaurant waiter or person, whatever, coming up to clean it, and he's just like, oh, smoking. Okay, sure. It's weird. Of course, who knows? Who knows what was going on?
The other game I was shown was Merchants. Ken Shoda brought it on Eric's last day. And it's a game from 11 years ago by Reinhard Knizia. What's the actual German name, Eric?
Handelsfürsten Herren der Meer. So like...
Was that
Merchants,
Pegasus-Spiele that did that?
Yes. Small Pegasus game. One of those games that people dismiss immediately as a themeless Knizia game.
It is so great. We played it with 3 and really, really fun choices. And so it was actually done by Catalyst Labs, I think, the next year after its release in Germany, which is an odd deal. I mean, Catalyst does lots of RPG stuff, and I'd never seen it, never heard of it, and it's really, really good. So both Eric and I had to buy the version that's actually in print in Japan, and it's really great. You might even see it on a game night, even though it's a little difficult to get, because it's really fun.
That's right.
You're going to either draw goods or play cards, and it's very, very simple mechanism, and it's very, very quick. And the market. The way you pay out is you're playing cards in the center of the table, and anybody who has goods of those types get paid out. So the first round game that we played, I won it because I kept paying out only what I had. I would hold on to stuff until they moved out of those goods, and then I would play those cards. Because what you're doing is you're allowed to swap out one good per turn, unless you have there's some upgrade cards that you can get where you can get more cards or more good, exchange more goods. You can't draw more goods. So you could do 2 goods instead of just 1. And so you're waiting to see what people are playing and hoping that you can get in on the gravy train. So you're like, hey, these guys both have blue. Maybe I ought to get blue. And then I would do that. And then they would both be out of blue. It was really great.
That's right. It's a stock game in disguise.
What did you play, Eric?
What did I play? Speaking of Ken, I will mention Ken Shoda's abstract strategy game, which is published by Nestor. It's a Yavalax, and of course it looks like nothing when you pull it out of the bag because it's just a board. There's nothing to show here. It's a simple abstract game where first player places a stone, and then everyone places 2 stones after that, and you're trying to make 2 intersecting lines of 4 stones on your turn, but you can't make a row of 4 stones on its own or you lose. So you have to win by placing that intersecting stone or forcing the opponent to do so and do some bad move and lose. You make 5 stones, a row of 5 stones, you lose automatically. There's nothing to it. That's it for the rules, and yet it's super engaging. And I played it with Ken last year when he was developing it, and now we played it again on the final version. What else we play? I don't have things to hold up like I usually do. We played Laplace, which is another abstract strategy game, which is kind of a weird new version of this old game called Upper Hand. You had a 7x7 board with, on a turn, you're going to place a piece on the board. So you have 7x7 holes. You place a piece on the board, and if you make a square of your piece, a square where 3 or 4 of the pieces are your color, you then get to put one of your pieces on top of that square, which of course may make another square, and then you place a piece on top of that. You slowly build this pyramid of pieces, and if you play all your pieces first, you win. And Ken just crushed me twice playing that.
And it was a beautiful production. That was really neat. It was basically kind of like a homemade style deal. It was Japanese tiles that you would probably use in a bathroom or something like that. Round tiles, really beautiful glazed. And then they had a button glued to the back, and that was what that would line up the discs on top of each other. And then the board itself was a thick piece of MDF with the holes drilled just correctly to be able to space those the tiles out, and it's really beautiful. And Ken was amazing. Like he constantly, it was just this big chain. He'd build this wall, and Eric just couldn't get around it. It was great.
But it's kind of the nature of a lot of the game market releases, where this guy did not license this from the original designer, as far as I know. But the original game was 5x5, and now they're publishing a 7x7 version. So I don't know what the legal status is of this, but it's pretty much like he handmade, I don't know, a few dozen copies, and they sold for $50 each for, these glazed things in this little plastic briefcase bag. And you get this unique production that I don't know if he'll ever make again. So that's a lot of the things we saw that seemed to be. Other thing I played, I can't hold up. Passtally, a lot of publishers were looking for this game. We got to play it at a preview night. It's a game for 2 to 3 players in which you are placing tiles on the board, and you have scoring markers which are placed on the perimeter of this board. And if you, after placing markers on your turn, or moving your placing tiles or moving your markers, if you have a path from one of your markers to another marker, you score points based on the number of tiles you go through and their height. It's a very simple game if you like Tsuro or Metro, things like that. It's very puzzly and cool, trying to make long paths that go through high areas while cutting off other people from scoring. And you just try to end up with the most points. So you are tallying the passes that you go through, and based on however many passes you go through, you get points. And you score points and go around until tiles are out or someone hits 50 points.
That was a fantastic game. We played it at a gaming event the evening before the game market. And everybody, just as we walked in, we both saw it and we're like, ooh, what's that one? And it's really, really great. Bought several copies to bring home.
Bring that to BGG.Spring. I want to play it.
We will have it at BGG.Spring. One other thing I'll mention, we have it at BGG.Spring, which I have not played yet. Zombie Crisis, the new game by Kuro from Manifest Destiny. By chance, we like to try to carry some of these games in the BGG store just because you can't get them otherwise, or at least it's very difficult. You pay overseas shipping and all that sort of business. But we bought 20 copies, and we will have them for sale at BGG.Spring. So it's a 2-player asymmetric game where one player is playing the zombies and the other is trying not to get caught by the zombies. Specifically, you are trying to kill, destroy all the zombies. So there you go. I don't know. Maybe we'll play it by then. So we'll have Passtally, and we'll have that game, and maybe we'll bring some other stuff too. Like Catain. Catain.
Oh my gosh, I was laughing so hard when they were demoing that game.
So this is a game it's got a parody of a Catain cover, except the sun looks like a big golden turd. And the whole point of the game is to make the longest feces.
And what was making me laugh was when they said that the flower was the anus. And then when they
That's right.
So I started laughing then. And then the guy said, when you roll 3 of the same number, you get to move the anus. I'm like, you get to move the anus? It was insane.
It was an unexpected production there.
That's what I love about the Japanese game market, the Tokyo game market. It's just got every theme imaginable.
Yeah, we filmed an overview of Catain. We filmed an overview of a game called Here Comes the Dog, which I think one of us will have at BGG.Spring. And that's a game where you're around a campfire made of sticks. And so it's all sticks laid out on the table, and there's a big pack of dogs coming. And you are trying to tame as many dogs as possible. And if you tame more than the other players, you win. If you don't tame enough, they may damage you. So you got to do this. And it's just lots of wood components by the same company that did Tokyo Highway, Itten Games. And it looks gorgeous on the table. So we have an overview of that, and maybe that game will be available at some point. We'll see.
The other thing that was actually interesting is there were 2 games that were designed by father-daughter teams, and the daughters are very young. One of them actually got optioned, I believe, by a publisher. And And the other one that was Happiest Town, I guess was the name of it, that she was on camera with us. We did not film an overview of the one that got optioned. There's many things that get missed. It's so much stuff, and it's a very very short time. So as we're there, and if we hopefully return next year, maybe people are aware that we're going to be there and that we're going to be filming videos. So we might be able to start earlier, because basically the first few hours was Eric lining up additional stuff and trying to see what we could do, like what was there. And we just did not have enough time to cover the independent sellers. I mean, there's so much stuff, and there's 2 days of them, right? So it's amazing.
Yeah, we did 45 videos, and there's 470 exhibitors. So
yeah, you're bound to miss something. It was awesome. We actually had fans of our videos. We had game night fans. Govind, Ozan, and Daniel came up and introduced themselves. And they were excited to see us. They were surprised to see us. And we went out to dinner with them, had shabu shabu, as Eric was, his batteries were winding down. And he's like, I'm not hungry. And but it was great. It was really fun. And they were very, very nice.
I was done that night. Now we just transfer it into talking about Game Market again. Hey, related news, maybe we transition now into other news. Z-Man Games has just acquired the rights to Love Letter and Lovecraft Letter from Alderac Entertainment Group. I mean, Love Letter was released actually at a comics market event in 2012 by Seiji Kanai, and it was self-published. AEG picked it up, released it late in 2012, and just exploded the market. Just the desire for minimalist games that originated from Love Letter is kind of amazing. And Love Letter itself originated from a 500 yen challenge, which is essentially make a game that you can sell for $5.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that was it was a big challenge where designers were just do this, make something really cheap, just try something. So whatever you can do that's super cheap and you can sell for $5. So you have Love Letter with only 16 cards. And that was it in a little envelope. And it just has spawned so much stuff in the industry. I think this huge awareness, followed by Machi Koro the next year, which of course blew up and became nominated for Spiel des Jahres and all. And now it's going to be owned by Z-Man.
And also Asmodee, right? So that's a big acquisition for them. Been trying to wrap my brain around it a little bit of why AEG would sell probably one of their top selling properties, I'm guessing. I mean, maybe the offer was just too good to refuse, something like that.
I wonder about the licensing too, because they have so many licensed versions of that game. Is all that traveling to Z-Man?
No. Z-Man specifically mentioned only Love Letter. They pictured Love Letter Premium, which is the game with more characters, and Lovecraft Letter, because the other licensed versions were tied in with Steve Jackson games for Munchkin Love Letter, or Cryptozoic for the Batman version, or the Lord of the Rings version. They had a Legend of the Five Rings version, but of course Fantasy Flight bought that years ago from AEG, and now they bought Love Letter as well. So I would imagine AEG is more of a hobby market company, and Asmodee is really pitching itself for mainstream success. So that's what they're shooting for.
Plus, AEG's poised to try to get new games. John Zinser was there early and had probably signed. There were games that people were interested in, and they were probably already signed because he's there, I believe, in the week before the event.
That's right. He shows up early to scoop other people, or at least to try to.
Trying to catch that lightning in the jar again, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
I think I read a quote, and I'm probably saying this wrong, but something about keeping their powder dry.
That was actually AEG director Ryan Scott Dancy on Facebook posted about trying to weather the coming storm by keeping their powder dry. And I imagine in the hobby market, they have probably considered that they've sold all the Love Letter they're going to sell, or at least most of it. And so now we can close the books on the hobby market for that game, get a bunch of money, and then carry on after that. Dancy's elaborated a little bit when someone was comparing the tabletop game market with the video game market, where it cost a ton of money to make a AAA video game. which Scott might have a little experience with that. Yeah, but for the hobby game market, I mean, AEG is, I think he said, it's 5 to 10 guys. It varies. Depends on 5 to 10 people working for the company. And yet they put out a decent number of games. And then you have Kickstarter companies where they will put out 2 games a year and they will look as good as anything else on the market. So the competition is within a larger pool of people. So AEG seems like it's trying to scale back a little and possibly not flood the market, but instead just prepare and then have the best titles it can at certain points and go forwards.
I guess the reference to keeping your powder dry is also having the cash flow to snap up a title right away instead of having to wait. Do we have the money to make this game? Now they do, right? Ostensibly from this.
Rather than committing and we're going to have a new game every month.
Yeah. Maybe they can put a lot more money into a bigger game. I don't know. There's lots of things.
They did that with Space Base, where they had, I think, 400 copies that they gave away at the Gamma trade show. If a retailer tried Space Base, they went home with a demo copy. And that is a big commitment, pushing out that many copies ahead of the game's release, try to get the buzz going on it, right? That costs money, and that's one way to do it, is put those demo copies in people's hands. But you can't do that with every game, but you can devote yourself to certain games, and maybe that's your powder. Firing games at retailers.
So you mentioned Machi Koro originating out of Tokyo Game Market, which was nominated for Spiel des Jahres. And what's happening this weekend, Eric? Something big coming out of Berlin.
Hey, that's right. On Monday, May 14th, the Spiel des Jahres jury will announce its nominations for Game of the Year, which is Spiel des Jahres, and the Connoisseur's Game of the Year, Kennerspiel des Jahres, and the Kinderspiel, or children's game, nominations will be announced as well by a separate jury. Now, there's huge speculation each year. What are these 3 games going to be? It is typically 3 games are nominated in each of the 3 categories. And then one winner will be announced in the Kinder category in June. And then the winners of the Spiel des Jahres will be announced in July. So, are we ready to speculate?
It's kind of crazy. I don't really, even though we know all this stuff, seen lots of stuff, I don't know what's really up for it. I know, obviously, we believe The Mind is going to get nominated, and Azul will get nominated. I'm sure Majesty's in the running. There's been positive feedback about Luxor from Queen Games. There's been positive feedback about Pioneers. I don't know if probably Luxor would maybe be a SdJ and Pioneers would be a Kenner. I don't know about the kids games. One of the 2 that I saw that I thought might have something were Magic Maze Kids and then Kobolds from Queen Games, which had an interesting mechanism of looking around the room, trying to see what's in the room, like monsters or whatever. That one seemed cool, but of course, almost always the kids games are a big surprise to us because we're just not clued in on that market.
That's right. We filmed overviews of a few Haba titles and a few other things, but yeah, I don't know that market. And Magic Maze Kids, I don't think is out in German.
Okay, still not out.
So that's out of the running. And it's interesting too. I see speculation for a lot of titles. People keep saying Sagrada. Sagrada's not out in German. It's not out, I think, until July, coming from Pegasus. So it is not under consideration. Generally, a game has to be on the German market by the end of March in order for it to be considered. So you have to keep that in mind. If a game is not out in German, it's not going to be nominated. So end of story on those games. But yes, Azul and The Mind. And aside from that,
maybe on the SdJ's Rise of Queensdale. I don't know. Based on what I saw of people playing it, I don't know that it'll get nominated. And then Quacksalber von Quedlinburg, which has that advanced mode too, that maybe might get nominated as a Kenner. I don't know.
Well, I just imported 3 copies of Quacksalber von Quedlinburg, so we can try that out.
Hooray!
At BGG-Con, whether or not it's nominated. Obviously, the Spiel des Jahres committee is coming to BGG-Con Spring, bringing all the nominations. One game you guys didn't mention, and I thought about it, and I think because it came out so early last year, was Barren Park.
That's true.
Could that be possibly a nomination? I don't know.
Possibly.
I almost thought that I mean, I played a production copy last year, so I would have thought that would have been considered for last year, but maybe that, I really love that game.
I think it was on the cusp.
Yeah, right on the cusp.
If a game comes out, the jury is free to choose things from, earlier in the year if they felt they just didn't play them enough and now they want to look at them again. Monara is one that I kind of like, except for the rule.
The collapsing rule?
One rule that I don't like. Yeah, the collapsing rule. But otherwise, it's a very involved, cooperative, fun game that you can kind of jump into and play with all ages, I think.
Yeah. I love Monara. I think it's one of the best games of the year, for sure. It could be on the Kennerspiel. That's
what I would think.
Maybe. I've seen multiple people actually suggest that Azul would be more appropriate for Kennerspiel, mainly because it has a take that element, which might not be great for families who are just trying to play nice, and that if someone actually knows what they're doing, they're just going to crush everyone else. So then it would be unfun. Like if someone groks the game early, they can just beat everyone.
Do you think any legacy games get nominated?
No, I don't think so.
The Rise of Queensdale, I guess, that looked way complicated when I walked by it being played recently. Plus, I think you have to play about 20 or 30 games of it. That's kind of a lot of commitment. I mean, some of the games could be over really quickly, as I understand it, but it's still pretty big, and it's hefty. Man, I think it weighed like 10 pounds.
Yeah.
Very heavy box.
It seemed pretty beefy. One thing I didn't think about before, I've heard photosynthesis mentioned for Kenner, and I could see that just because it's very pretty. The rules are very straightforward. You can play without really knowing what you're doing, but you will get beat by anyone who has a clue as to what they're doing. So, I don't know. I mean, it's an abstract game, completely abstract. So it's, yeah.
By the way, Tom Felber, chairman of the committee, has released the top 10 reasons, or let me get the title here, the top 10 unmistakable signs that you are no longer part of the Game of the Year audience. Shall we read a few of these, guys? Are you ready to hear this? I'm going to put my reading glasses on. Number 1. This one is quite interesting. You post every game you play on BoardGameGeek and enter it neatly where you played, the time, the score of all the players, their names and trades, your player color, the amount of your blood pressure, and the brand of chips that you consumed before lunch. Yeah, so that's an awesome. that just kind of blew me away. That BoardGameGeek is definitely like he's saying nobody on BoardGameGeek is. No, that's not what he's saying. It's interesting though. That's kind of funny. Some of us take these games a little too seriously.
You're probably not the audience, though.
All right, here's another one. Ready? You instantly and always, while a game is in progress, take a picture of the game you're playing and post it on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook. Tag all the players, who of course are all on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and Facebook. So I think I'm guilty of that.
But you're the audience.
This one is great. I don't know why these people would not be part of the audience for the Spiel des Jahres, but it says, after the Spielmesse in Essen, you proudly present your loot games in social media, a stack with all your games bought along by the fair. This is Google Translate, by the way, out of German, so it's kind of weird. But I'm guessing that's for the people that post up pictures of themselves carrying mounds and mounds of games. So you are not the audience for Spiel des Jahres. Sorry.
That was one of my favorite comments. My favorite one was you are seriously of the opinion that some of the previous award winners of the Kenner Spiel des Jahres are actually children's games and have already told the jury chairman or other members of the jury directly and emphatically. I've seen this type of thing happening to the jury, and it's hilarious. I love that comment.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised that I think I read somewhere that someone thought Isle of Skye was a family game. Like, I don't know about that.
Number 5 was my favorite, especially because I'm guilty of this. You regularly order overpriced and cool T-shirts with pop culture nerdy stuff from overseas.
Yes, you are guilty.
You went to Tokyo and bought nerdy T-shirts.
All right, I think I should read number 6. You're more than willing to spend at least $120 on a Kickstarter game by an unknown author and publisher you do not even know if the game system works. The main thing is that the characters look cool and the illustrations, I guess, tear you away. But it's probably like what make you cry. I don't know, tear you away or make you cry. I can't tell.
Bring you to tears.
Bring you to tears. That's what it is.
That's right. It's like he was looking at a picture of Scott when he wrote that.
I know. Like, is he in my head? What is going on?
You're of the opinion that chess or Monopoly or Sorry or any particular game is the best game ever and no other games are needed.
Agricola, the best game ever.
Yeah, there's a few people like that. You have a lifestyle game and nothing else can match up to that. Just, why are you bothering me?
I might be guilty of this. Discussions on your game evenings, and I don't know why I wouldn't. I'm totally an audience member of the Spiel des Jahres. Discussions on your game evenings often revolve around topics like if Batman, Mr. Spock would meet Darth Vader, Lara Croft, and Rick and Morty as a team in an arena, who would win the fight and which round and why? Like, come on, what? Who doesn't have that discussion? Like, isn't that like standard? Well, then, Eric, you are prime for number 8. Discussions at your game evenings, nothing is discussed. The other players should concentrate on the game.
That is true. All the time, my wife Linda is like, we're going to have food, right? And I'm just like, why would you have food?
Food, drinks, like wine, beer.
Food. We need to focus.
Stuff like that. Yeah.
That's right.
Play
games.
Focus.
Stop talking. Get to the table. Focus.
You prefer to play alone anyway, and you do not like interacting with your fellow players at the table. Maybe so.
I don't know if they have solo rules.
You could totally solo.
Maybe they have one game. Like
anyway,
that.
We're excited for the announcements coming on Monday. We will probably be staying up all night Sunday to see the announcement live streamed in Berlin. I may do a live stream watching it.
What's funny though, Scott, you're saying you are the audience, but the thing is you don't need the SdJ nominations to know about games. And I think that's really the point.
Oh, is that the point? Oh, gosh. I thought it was like, I see. Yeah, I get it.
It's not that you hate the games that they nominate. It's just that you already know all this. You can find out about this on your own.
Here's the thing, though. This group always comes up with something that surprises me or some game I never heard of. I mean, I almost think every year there's some children's games that I never heard of that way under the radar that are super fun to play just like anything else. So not 100% true, but probably mostly true.
Well, we're going to wrap up the show with some footage from the Tokyo Game Market that we shot just several days ago because I actually arrived home today.
I'm going to jump in. Lincoln's going to fall asleep while editing this, I think.
Well, that wraps up another episode of the Board Game Geek Show. Thank you, everybody, for watching, subscribing, giving us thumbs up, retweeting, all that stuff on social media, plus commenting on Board Game Geek. We read all the stuff. Last episode, we asked for questions. I unfortunately gave you the wrong email address. It should be BGGshow@BoardGameGeek.com. So that's BGGSHOW at BoardGameGeek.com. Send us a question. We may read it on the show and talk and answer them. So hopefully, if you got a question, please write us. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Lincoln, for joining me. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
See you, Scott.
Bye.
Hi, this is Eric Martin with Board Game Geek. I'm here with Eric M. Lang. Oh,
Hi.
Normally I see you elsewhere, not at Game Market in Tokyo. What are you here for?
I am here on behalf of Simon. We're looking for exciting new games to pick up, exciting new partnerships, and to actually get a first-hand, boots on the ground look at the Japanese market.
Okay, and it's your first time here.
That's right.
What's your initial impression? I don't know. It's kind of hard to say. Like,
well, it's not what I expected at all. I mean, I saw pictures that used to send of the game market, and it looks like just some indie booths and some tables. I mean, this is a full-on Origins-sized hall. Right?
This hall is definitely different from it was 1 year ago. 1 year ago, there was one Spiel booth by Oink Games.
Yep.
The Spiel booth, sort of more professional. I hate to use the clarification, but it was very recognizable. And this year, Arclight has a huge booth, and Yellow Submarine has a huge retailer booth, and there's other ones, and that's very different within 1 year.
It looks like UK Game Expo is actually, I think, the closest that this looks like. Of course, but it's all Japanese. I've really enjoyed diving into the culture. So I spend a lot of time just kind of sitting back and watching people play games and see how they interact with it. I love the types of games people are playing here. Obviously, a lot of very casual games, but really weird, cool indie games. Very tactile games. They're getting played here. It's where I'm like. That's kind of where I'm at, right? Where I love those kind of games. So there's a lot for me to connect to, which I really enjoy. Okay. So we picked up several promising titles. So we'll see what happens.
Okay. And how much of an overview do you get of something before you're like, okay, we'll just take it home and check it out for later?
Well, I mean, we're super picky. So
I didn't know if it was just like, we got to grab it all or else we'll never see it again.
So I buy everything. Like when it comes to when you're talking about shopping, no, I just buy if even in 2 seconds I'm like, oh yeah, it looks cool. I have no idea if the game is good. Right. If it looks like
English rules will be available, or
we got Japanese friends. It's all good. I buy. I don't know. I spent hundreds of dollars just to buy a bunch of games. I love collecting games anyway. So yeah, I was not discriminating at all to buy. But when it comes to evaluating for whether we're going to publish it or distribute it, that we're super picky.
Okay. Well, yes. Obviously, it's a lot of investment of time and energy to make something happen.
Right. Well, we have a standard and brand to uphold. So.
Yes. Have you seen anything else? I mean, is this your first time in Tokyo as well, or no?
First time in Japan. I mean, I've flown through Japan many times, and I've done the 24-hour layover, like take the train in, eat some ramen, go back to the airport. Okay. But yeah, I haven't seen Tokyo before, and I've been here 2 days, and I mean, I love it. I love how orderly everything is. There's a little bit of that stereotype, when they say like the Japanese are very orderly and very neat. It's totally true. I love the food. I ate a taco on my first day. My friends chastised me for it, but it was amazing. It was. Okay. I haven't had a single bad thing to eat here, and I just went everywhere. I didn't care. Like it was some donut shop that also made sushi. I don't care. I'd eat it, and it was delicious.
There you go. You never know what you're gonna.
You never know.
Which is kind of the market here. When you get over to the doshin, right. Individual people. Yes, we just had a game here with. There was a Morse code sort of guessing party game.
Yeah.
But then this one with augmented reality where your face would be changed using an app, where you'd hold up cards and decipher things.
That was weird. I didn't know what to make of that one.
Yes, but it's that level of experimentation where you have no clue how someone came up with an idea and they're just doing a tiny run. So It doesn't matter. They're not doing a production run the level of Simon
you
where.
See this one?
I have not seen it yet.
It's a 30-minute legacy puzzle game. Okay. I don't know what it's called. It's in Japanese. I'm going to figure out, but it's like you play it once, you burn through it, and you literally it's a puzzle that you rip up as you're completing it. Okay. I didn't see a designer there. It was all just enthusiastic convention organizers. It was cool. I just bought it because I bought 2 copies, one to destroy and one to play later. But it's cool. We'll see where it goes. But I do like, you're right, the experimentation and the, I don't want to use like naivete, but there's an innocence about the indie area that I really appreciate. Right? They're not really exposed to the industry at all. They're just making stuff that they love and hoping that it resonates.
Yes. I don't know if you saw, there was a memory game with different types of paper.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Where it's just different thicknesses and styles, and that's it. But it's all white. It's all white cards.
Yeah, it looked. So my my developer brain like clicked on immediately and was like, oh, I don't know, but it still looks cool.
Yes. But it's also just like, I don't know where else you would see something like this. Like, I don't know, like even at Unpub, most of those games seem like someone's looking to get published.
Right.
It's not.
Right.
It's not.
Yeah, here they're just making games they're making games that they just want to sell, like just to the few people that like it. And almost every game is handcrafted, or made it like their version of Kinko's. So. Right. I appreciate that though. I bought a lot of those. I'm really on the lookout for weird, different stuff.
Okay. Well, good. We'll see what comes out.
Absolutely.
Well, we'll see what hits your fancy, and then separate from that, whether Simon does anything.
Yep. I see some potential in here.
Okay. All right. Thanks very much, Eric.
Thank you.
And we'll see you at Origins, Gen Con. Gen
Origins.
Con. Origins too.
That's right.
Okay. A few weeks from now.
Arigatou gozaimasu.